Look, this has been done before, and if you remember, look at the Browns. Okay, so the Browns in 2007, they had the 3rd pick overall. They weren't sure on Brady Quinn, so they take Joe Thomas. Then they go back out. They trade up in front of, I forget who, Kansas City. It was in front of Kansas City because they needed a quarterback, so they went to 22 and traded back into the 1st round, picked up Brady Quinn. And, it was kind of the same thing where everybody thought Brady would potentially go to them because they desperately needed a quarterback, but they didn't feel strongly enough about him at that point to make that, to make that leap or to make him that pick at 3. So they jumped back in. Now, in doing that, they gave Dallas their 2nd that year, and then they gave up the number 1 the next year. So they gave up a lot of capital to make the move. And if you don't have a conviction on the guy at 3 that he's going to be your franchise quarterback, it's hard for me to think that you're going to really have a conviction at him, on him at 21 or 22. Now, the reason that you do trade back into the 1st round is especially if you think that guy's not going to start right away, you get the 5th-year option if you draft him in the 1st round. So there's value there because he can sit without you losing the year of service that you'd lose if he was in the 2nd round. I like the idea of them playing together. I think that probably helps Shedeur significantly. I think it does set things up really interestingly for Deion Sanders to New York.
He just signed a contract extension, Coach. He talked about it today.
What's the buyout?
Right.
All that matters is what's the buyout, and then it really doesn't matter if you want really some. Yeah, I mean the buyout, whatever. I mean they could make that move, but it does set it up really interestingly if things go south in New York. So I like Travis Hunter at 3. I think that's a great pick. I mean, I would argue he's the best player in the draft, but I'm not sold on Shedeur.
Wow. It makes a lot of sense. And also, if you're Joe Shane, you got to do something to, show that you got a pulse. Something to show that you are innovative and, in your thinking and you can make things happen. And this would be it. If you could get these 2 guys, you will win the back page. Sometimes that matters in New York.
You got to do something right.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm saying immediately you will win the back page, and then obviously they'd have to pan out and play well. But I think that this front office does need to show we can move mountains. It's not just the obvious stuff, but we can make things happen. So I like it if they could do it. I think it's hard to do.
They've proven to not even be able to do the obvious stuff, though. I want to see what Nick has to say, and I'm gonna let this go. But they haven't even proved to be able to do the obvious stuff. And if you can't even do the obvious stuff, then don't try to do the aggressive stuff first. Hit the layups before you start chucking up logo 3s. It's that simple.
Because what if the Saints take Shedeur? I mean, I don't know that they will, but you never know.
I'm glad you said that because to me, the most fascinating thing that's on our screen right now is Shedeur over/under set at 8.5 now. Even money, he'll go before or after the 8.5. Pick 9 is what that means. The Saints are at 9, and that what I mean. So that's why they're sitting there. Man, the idea of Shedeur going in the top 3 seems to be dwindling by the day. And if the Saints, who seem to always think this is the year we're going to contend and have Derek Carr definitively as their starter because they just reworked his deal, don't take him. I think the kind of sub-story to this is anybody that wants to trade to get Shedeur is probably thinking we have to trade up in front of Pittsburgh because if he gets past 9, when you look at the draft board, 10 through, you look at it, Caleb, Purdy, Dak, and Bazooka Joe, Tua, AR and Daniel Jones, Penix, Kyler, Burrow, Darnold, Baker, Nix. They're all, the Colts you could say are the one, but I think the Colts also.
Possibly.
Well, no, but Seattle just traded for signed Darnold, pardon me.
You know what I mean? To back up Darnold for a year.
The Colts are interesting.
The Colts are interesting, except they're in what would Steichen feel like gives him the most rope? I don't know. So I'm not saying it's definitive that it couldn't happen. My point is that this team's feeling like we have to, if Shedeur falls, we have to move in front of Pittsburgh, and also Pittsburgh feeling like we might be able to draft Shedeur Sanders by staying at 21 is a really, really interesting wrinkle of this draft. I feel similarly to Coach that I have real questions about Shedeur as a pro, but you would think the best hope he would have would be teaming up with his superstar teammate that we know they have the relationship with.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you need your superstar teammate to be like a top quarterback in the NFL, well, then you're doing it wrong. It's that simple. I agree with what they were saying earlier, where it's just, if you believe Shedeur is the guy and you're the Giants, then you don't play games and you just draft them. It's that simple. You just draft him. You don't try to figure out, will the Colts get him? Maybe the Dolphins do. Maybe the Dolphins are like, bro, Tua keeps getting injured. Like, we got to have a backup plan. It's what the Eagles did with Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz kept getting injured, especially when it was time for the playoffs. And they were like, and at that point, they believed in Carson Wentz. They did. They believed in Carson Wentz. They did not draft Jalen Hurts to be the starting quarterback at that time. Even after that year, and Carson wanted to leave, they did everything they could to keep Carson Wentz. That's why they fired Doug Peterson. That was not the main agenda, was to move on from Carson and have Jalen. But they were just like, we need to do something. This quarterback keeps getting injured. Like, we need kind of a backup plan. So who's to say that the Dolphins don't go out and get one? Go out and get him. So you could have the Saints could draft him. The Dolphins could. The Colts. Maybe the Cardinals. We don't know if they're over Kyler Murray at this point. Kyler Murray's been very inconsistent. We don't know. The Seahawks, yeah, they gave Sam Darnold like essentially like a glorified, 1-year deal kind of. I know it's like kind of written in a different way, but it's like they have a lot of outs there. So they could easily just be like, oh wow, we didn't know. Maybe they're really high on Shedeur. And they're like, dude, we can get Shedeur at 18. Like, yeah, man, we got to do it. You don't know. I mean, like, again, there's no guarantees. The Steelers definitely, as we know they don't have any quarterback, at least as of right now. So I don't know. This whole idea that the Giants will be able to pull off something where they like get Hunter at 3, and then they're able to trade back and then get Shedeur, like, it's just, first off, you don't know if you could even trust him to be able to actually successfully pull it off, number one. And then number two, you would potentially, in theory, be giving up more for Shedeur now than you would if you just draft him at 3. And he might not pan out. Like, it just feels, I don't know. Again, if you truly believe that he is the guy, then just draft him at 3. I just think it's that simple. Like what Bruce kind of saying, like, oh, this front office needs to prove that they can do, more than just the easy stuff. Like, they haven't even proved that. They've already made concrete mistakes. And I see Giants fans trying to defend about, Saquon Barkley, they needed to get rid of him, and Daniel Jones and this. It's like, guys, let's cut the nonsense. Seriously, let's cut the nonsense. This team has not been well run. That much is obvious. We can just, stop with that. The Giants don't need to be defended. Sorry to break the news to you. So you just got to build the foundation. You got to just get the layups. And if Shedeur Sanders is truly your quarterback of the future, then you just draft him and you worry about everything else. Unless you feel that you have a way to draft Hunter. Because I mean, like, for all we know, even the Jets or the Raiders or the Jags, seriously, any of those teams, even the Jags, the Raiders, and the Jets, and maybe even the Panthers and the Saints, like, all of those teams technically could draft Sanders. They really could. Jags would be like, dude, I'm over Trevor Lawrence. I know we paid him a bunch of money, but, like, this guy also keeps getting injured. He's a mess. This might be our chance to finally, to draft a new quarterback. You just don't know. The Raiders, I know they gave Geno Smith a healthy deal. But still, We saw the Falcons do it with Penix and Kirk Cousins. You just don't know. The Jets, Justin Fields, okay, I know people keep talking about Justin Fields being the guy. I'm not so sure about that. And if they believe that they can draft Shedeur Sanders and they think that Shedeur is better than Justin Fields, would they give him like 20 some $1 million a year for like 2 years or whatever it was? That's not that much money in the NFL. You could easily just kind of, make that work. Especially if you have Shedeur sit for a year and then have Fields go play for a year. And if he actually plays pretty well, then you'll be able to move on from him and get something back in return. And so, like, there you go. No harm, no foul. And Shedeur sits for a year. And if Justin Fields ends up being great and you want to keep him, now Shedeur is like a legit, trade value as well that you'll still be able to trade for. Like, you just don't know. Seriously, you just don't know. And we kind of already went through the other scenarios. So it's just like Nick is saying, at least in front of the Steelers. And it's just like, there's too many other question marks for some of these other teams. And if you want to be hyper aggressive, and I don't even know if this would even be remotely possible, where you draft him at 3 and then somehow get back, like you draft him at, you draft Hunter at 3 and then you trade back up of like ahead of like the Jaguars or something. I mean, like I don't know what type of moves that would that you would even possibly be able to make. So like I said, man, if you believe in Shedeur, you just go get him, and you let go of Hunter. It becomes really that kind of straightforward. Trying to do all this magic in the draft really kind of, from my viewpoint, only really works. Like if Shedeur Sanders wasn't really on anyone's radar at all, and there was someone that you really liked, and you kind of had this idea of what you wanted, then I think some of these moves kind of make sense. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I just think, we don't have to overcomplicate things any more than they are. And so, because even if you look at the draft odds, the over under 8.5, so that essentially that puts at the Saints draft pick. So you would have to get back in the top 10 essentially, and really hope that the Raiders or the Jets, the Panthers, the Saints, like that they don't draft them. And then if they do, like I don't know. And who knows if you could even make the deal in time. Maybe you make that trade in a way. Like I don't even know when you would have to technically make that trade. Because is there a possibility that you make that trade and then you still don't get to draft Shedeur? Like you trade up and have the Saints pick now, and now the Jets though. Like I don't know. I don't know if you could if the way how that would unfold, if they would be able to do it in a way where they know that Shedeur is still on the board, or if they would have to kind of take a gamble and kind of make that move before draft day. Kind of gets a little wild. So I don't know enough about what would happen truly behind the scenes of all of that, but just seems like it could blow up in your face. Get the quarterback you want. If that's the guy you want, you just get him. You worry about everything else later. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the New York Giants potentially getting a little aggressive, a little innovative, a little imaginative to try to trade and get Hunter at 3 and Sanders? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. Absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.